7 o'clock, so we might as well start some of our warm up here. So from what Liam told me, it looks like we can fit 25 faces on the screen. So I don't know if that's what you're seeing. And so if you hit the button, you can get to the next screen and see who else is there. I would sort of the basic reminder is that we do this in a respectful manner. We don't need to go through the list, but we will stick to a treat each other in a respectful way set of rules. I'll remind folks that we ask folks to keep yourselves muted, you know, if you're not speaking or raising your hand for a question. So I think for most folks, there's a mute button down in the lower left-hand corner. And across the bottom of the panel, there's, if you want to see the whole list, you can click on the participants button and everybody will show up. And of course, if you use you want to make a comment or ask a question, there is the raise the hand feature. And the steering committee folks will be trying to keep tabs on that. And Liam too, are you monitoring the raised hand? Yep. So we can, all right, good, get everybody into the conversation. So I guess I would, I don't see Jim Hallway here yet this evening.
Could I ask a technical question before we come off of technology? I
yeah.
have someone trying to get on by phone. Liam, can they access the Zoom meeting?
Yes.
Phone?
They should be able to. I'm not sure. On the agenda, there might be a phone number they can call. I think that there is something on there, but I can send you an email or something like that with the phone number if you'd like, and then they can just call in.
Yeah, I know that each of the Front Porch Forum postings did have the phone number listed there as well.
I'm assuming we've disabled the screen share. Yeah, okay.
Correct.
If you need to screen share for a presentation or something, just let me know and I'll make you a co-host and you can share. But just,
yep. So as you may have noticed, we're now using the city's Zoom, the CEDO web account, and Liam is our host this evening. So so he's in charge of those mechanics. So thank you, Liam, for doing that for us. Yep, it's good to have you here.
And it looks like TJ has a question.
Thanks so much. I've never been able to make it on time. I just spent all day on Zoom. And so I've never seen there's like ground rules or agreements for the meeting. And I've never seen those. So I'm just wondering if anybody can post those somewhere, or because unfortunately I've experienced some people not being respectful during these meetings. And I, for one, would like to be able to call them out when that happens. So.
Okay. So yeah, we do have a sort of a formal list of rules that I don't have in front of me, but I think basically it boils down to sort of conduct ourselves in a respectable manner, and if it doesn't pass that test, then it's probably out of bounds.
If anybody has those list of rules, they can send it to me and I can post it on the city's webpage underneath this meeting if anybody wants to download them. So
yeah, I'll pull them off a previous agenda and send them to you. So I guess one of the things that the steering committee wants to accomplish this evening for sure is to make sure everybody appreciates the fact that we, the steering committee and the city of Burlington as a whole, has lost one of our longest serving steering committee members, Linda Della Duca. She passed away 2 weeks ago, back on March 10th. So she died very peacefully at home with her family. So one of the ways we'd like to open our meeting this evening is if there are anyone who would like to offer a remembrance and appreciation of Linda, this is the perfect time to do that. So who would, Martine, thank you.
I was going to start my updates tonight with a little remembrance and an acknowledgement of Linda's passing. I did not realize how ill she was, like probably many of you. And so it was a shock when I heard about her passing. I just wanted to say that Linda was, as many of you know, extremely supportive of our school district. And she was always interested in what was going on. She was, more than anything, she was passionate about the well-being of our children in our community and about the work that our schools were doing to meet the needs of our children. And on a personal note, I just wanted to say that Linda encouraged me to run for Ward 4 School Commissioner 3.5 years ago. And I will forever be grateful to her for that. And that's all I wanted to say.
Thank you. Jeff Clark?
Yeah, I wanted to remember Linda as well. She was a great lady for the NPA. She really had a wealth of knowledge, excuse me, wealth of knowledge that she shared with everyone on the committee. And I will miss that tremendously. I'm not sure if everyone also knew the great work she did as a trustee on the Vermont State Teachers Retirement System. As a financial advisor, she would like to talk shop with me about what they were doing on the retirement system, all confidential, and she had great knowledge of what she was doing for the system and for her fellow teachers, which I thought was great work she did there too. I'll pass it on.
Jennifer? Don't forget to unmute yourself, please.
I just live several doors away from where Linda used to live, and she did die. Her death was a gracious unfolding right at the end. Her granddaughter, who lived with her, had started to read books to her, something to her every night. And the last book that she chose the night before Linda died was by Dr. Seuss, entitled, "Oh, the Places You'll Go." And and that her son said that towards the end, when at first she closed her eyes, this is when they knew she was getting close, but she could still hear, and so they kept talking to her. And then they saw that she'd fallen asleep, and so they just stayed by the bedside in case she woke up. But he said she just started to laugh in her sleep. That's it.
Thank you. Sarah Carpenter, I saw you had your hand up.
I can imagine Linda just laughing in her sleep. Perhaps it's some of us. I didn't know Linda too very well, even though I knew her family and some of her brothers. But when I decided to run, she was just such a great support to me and giving me advice. And I so appreciated her honesty and her candor, and she certainly had lots of opinions. But it's so wonderful to have someone like that working in our community, and that really will be missed.
Thanks. Bob?
Thanks. Linda was a friend of mine. 35 years ago, Linda was one of the first foster parents that I ran into as a DCF worker, SRS worker. And then she was the teacher that I knew. And then she was this that I knew and that I knew. And we sat around, we did Zoom calls after we couldn't go to breakfast in the morning. We did a Zoom call on a Friday and we were supposed to do one on Monday. And then she basically said, I can't do them anymore. And then died soon thereafter. But you automatically get a sense from Martine and Sarah and my own experience that Linda had her finger in so much in the community. And everything that she did her way. And one of the things that she said, I posted the card that she had somebody write up, other work to do, so I'll be moving on. And it doesn't surprise me at all that that's her perspective, because there was very little that she didn't have either some influence, some opinion, or some smart ass remark about. We had a VPIC meeting on Tuesday and we had a moment of silence. And everybody sort of got the idea that a moment of silence is the last thing that Linda Del Duca would have wanted, because there was no silence in her life. So she will be missed. Thanks.
Thank you. Eric?
Yeah, let me unmute here. Yeah, Linda first recruited me for the NPA, and I'll always be, grateful to her for that. But even more so when my wife and I first moved into Vermont a little over 8 years ago, when we would go down to the bagel cafes on Wednesday morning, and in those days, she was always there on Wednesday morning, and we learned so much from her about about Vermont politics, the neighborhood, the city. And early on, she said, I'm going to teach you about state government. And she actually took us on a field trip, to the state capitol. And then we walked around the lunchroom. She buttonholed just about every player in the state. I mean, that day we met Dave Zuckerman, we met Bill Farrell, we met Beth Pierce. I mean, it just went on and on and on. So, she was a force of nature in that way. And, always, appreciated her, her friendship and her support and her knowledge.
Thanks.
Welcome.
I guess a thought I'd like to add is, and actually one of the things I appreciate most about Linda is she made it very clear that she didn't care if we disagreed on politics or content of a particular conversation, but she made it very clear that her the most important priority to her was a commitment to the neighborhood and a commitment to the community, and anybody that was willing to serve and commit their energy to the community was most important to her, whether you agreed with her on the merits of an issue or not. So that's what I definitely learned from Linda. Anyone else like to offer a thought before we get going on the content of our meeting?
Going to offer that Linda recruited me and I didn't know her, and she called me after I lost the Democratic nomination and said, I know how you can help the community. Do you really want to help the community? And so right now, she would be telling us it's time to move on.
That's correct.
I'll also put it out there, Jeff, that she had a great sense of humor and she was not apologetic. She kind of wrestled me into doing this, and it's been a great experience for the last couple of years. She was crass, she was brass. You either loved her or hated her. Even those that didn't like her, I think they did, but she made no apologies for who she was, what she stood for. And it was just kind of neat to have someone be so just blunt and true.
Thank you.
Onwards and upwards.
Yep. All right. So one of the places we're going to go this evening is we're going to launch into our elected officials segment. So let's see. I don't know. Anybody volunteering to lead off? Mr. Hooper. Bob?
Since I've been sitting in this chair since 7 o'clock this morning, I'm gonna lead off and then beg off, unless you have a lot of questions. Today, Jeff mentioned teacher retirement stuff. Today, forgive my frankness, but the shit hit the fan with the proposal that leadership brought out on teacher and state employee retirement plan revisions, as well as a means to hopefully resolve the unfunded liability bit. And all of a sudden, my email box is this much bigger because everybody is now saying, what kind of a draconian mindset do the people have there? I think it'll impact our ability to hire. The level of educator that we attract to the state will be impeded by the fact that we're not going to have a retirement system that is as functional or accessible as the one that we have now. We have a whole lot of federal money that came in. Some of it is going to this particular problem. A lot of it is going to other particular problems. Most of the email I'm getting is saying, you made a promise to me when I started to work here 20 years ago, and now you're ripping it out from under me. And that's a valid point, I think. So I want to hear from you all about what your thoughts are on the process. It'll be probably in the paper tomorrow. But tough decision because it's a huge number that has to be dealt with. And it just starts to get bigger and bigger. On other hands, we passed the House now. It's not law, it's just the wisp of something. Sexual assault bill, something that deals with corrections training for sexual assault, limits interaction between workers and inmates. Passed a huge movement towards funding childcare so that people get access to quality childcare. It's still not a business that I think compensates the people that work in it as well as they should, but it's moving in that direction. There's a lot of stuff going on. Fortunately, you all can watch it happening live on YouTube. And if you get insomnia, you can sit up in your favorite chair at 2 o'clock in the morning and watch it there. We've gone completely and totally. I mean, I'm sitting in an old bedroom here. That's where the State House is, as far as I'm concerned. And it's invigorating and boring at the same time. My dog comes up, I give him a treat, he walks away. So I know that everybody has questions about what's going on, and I certainly will entertain as many as I can. Although if we've beaten the horse to death already, maybe not. And since I'm representing 2 other legislators here, apparently, I see. Go ahead. Anybody? Last call.
Okay, yeah, I just got a message from Carol. She's trying to join us, but Kate, you have a question?
Yeah, Bob, I wonder if you can be any more specific about, I mean, I know what the proposal was, but could you be any more specific about what happened today in the conversation about the proposal?
About corrections, about child care?
Sorry, about education retirement.
Oh, a significant increase in contribution, a significant mitigation of what the average final compensation be for most system members. It's an average of your last 3 years of salary. There was a proposal to go to 7 years, which is almost a third of a lot of people's service. And I think maybe the 3rd highest in the country in terms of the average that they're looking at. Retirement age boosted up to what would be normal for Social Security. Complete restructuring of the Pension Investment Committee, which oddly enough takes us back to the first Pension Investment Committee that we threw out because it was too complicated to run. Essentially, it's a cookie cutter of that somebody wants to bring back. the boards that you would go through if you were a teacher and you needed a disability determination, or you're having problems with a 457 or a 403, whatever that those boards run, they would be combined into one. Most of it is, I find no logic in it. And as somebody that sits on the pension investment board and spent many, many years on the state employees retirement board, makes no sense to me. Seems to be driven by, I hate to say this, but people that may not know exactly what the unintended consequences are going to be of what they do. However, in both the education side and the state employees side, I have solicited and have gotten probably 4 pages of email from people that have the option with 25 years in to say, I'm going to buy the last 5 years and walk out the door. I got a report from the Veterans Home in Bennington today, where I sit on that board, and 26.7% of the employees are eligible to say, I'm leaving tomorrow, if they buy 5 years today. So this will have a chilling effect on the ability of the state to provide services. If we had done this 6 months before COVID hit, I would bet people would still be waiting to get in the door of the unemployment office as opposed to getting benefits. It's ill-conceived, and I think it's going to be a bad move, and I plan to either try to modify it considerably or just object to it. Does that do it?
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome.
Jake?
Hey, so in regards to the latest pile of money from the federal government, the rescue plan, I think it's called this time around. What's the timeline as far as the state deciding how it's going to spend its part of that allocation?
Well, that's a hard question to answer, Jake, because just like the last time, the money comes and then they float in the restrictions upon the use of the money afterwards. So people are somewhat hesitant to use it for certain things. This question ties in well with the last one, because there is a prohibition on using this money for retirement fund related stuff. The other thing that is in that puzzle is called other post-employment benefits, and that's like healthcare for teachers, etc. It might be able to be used for that, but we don't know yet because the feds have not handed down the restrictions. There is money that's being appropriated in the budget that is just starting to work its way through the system. Just came out of the appropriations committee, I think this week. COVID time is, who knows what day it is. But it's got to go from there to the floor, and then to the Senate, and then to the governor, and might get recogitated somehow. So it'll be in a budget. It'll be technically dedicated, but when it gets to the departments, and the departments take the money and then they write the rules for, if it's going to a small business concern, or it's going to fund a health department initiative, or it's going to fix a runway at the airport, whatever it's being used for, they have to wait until they get a better idea of what the regulation is going to be and how it's applied. Or we can run into a situation where some federal auditor comes by and says, oops, you made a mistake, I'm taking that back. And that's not where we want to be. So prudence is a good thing, but prudence is in this context synonymous with delay, or it can be. Follow up?
Well,
No,
thank you. I think what we probably need to do, Bob, is have folks communicate, follow up with you a little bit later, because we need to move on to our other elected official segment for now, please. So Martine, yeah, you're welcome. Thanks, Bob. Martine, do you want to pick it up?
Sure. Please give me a sign if my Wi-Fi is acting up. It seems to come and go. But hello, everybody. It's nice to see everyone. Bob, thank you for your work. I know you've been working really hard on the teacher's retirement, and I appreciate that. Yeah, good work. So I just wanted to give you some updates, and I also wanted to say that the 3 school commissioners, we're probably going to be doing like a rotating schedule. We have a lot of conflicts, evening meeting conflicts. So tonight I am the only person here, and you might find that there'll be 1 or 2 of us here instead of 3 on a regular basis. So apologies, but you know, it's the land of Zoom, and we can't escape it. So first off, I just wanted to let you all know that the safety task force that was put together a few months back has completed their work. And that was a group of students, community members, BSD employees who took a deep dive and a close look at the SRO program in the city. So their work is done. They have completed their report. We're going to be looking at it closely at the April 6th school board meeting. And then we will decide whether or not we will, accept it and implement it. So I wanted you all to know that. And it should be made public, I would say, sometime in April. I wanted to remind folks that we're working hard on the weighting study. And I'll explain that very briefly, and also say that just a shout out to Kendra, who is our North District school commissioner, and Mike Fisher, who've been working really hard on this. But as many of you know, and Mark Barlow, I see you, and you may want to chime in at some point as well. But for the last 20 years or so, the state's been distributing monies to districts based on pupil weights. And in 2019, there was a study done, a combination, Rutgers University and UVM. They did research on our funding formula and decided that it actually was inequitable and it undervalued EL students and students in rural communities. So basically, Burlington's been underfunded. I use that word. We haven't been getting the appropriate amount for our student body to the tune of close to 40%. So this coalition that's been put together has been working to try to create a more equitable formula so that monies are distributed around the state in a more equitable fashion, which would be a great thing for Burlington. It really would help frankly, our tax situation, and it would certainly give us the appropriate money for our students, the appropriate resources for our students. So we've been working on that. Obviously, at this point, it's in Montpelier. It's a political decision that's being made, so it is complicated and it will take time. But we did have a great city council meeting with Carol Odie and Philip Baruth, and some other folks who spoke up in favor of looking at the student weighting formula. Probably won't see anything happening until 2023. That's what we were told at the city council meeting the other night. But just so you know, we are working on that. The BHS, folks are asking a lot of questions. DTBHS, which is the downtown location, is going really well. There are issues around noise, as some of you may have heard. The walls do not go all the way up to the ceiling so that air can circulate. But what that means is that, there are noise issues and we're trying to work on that, trying to mitigate the sound. But all in all, I would say things are going well. The high school building on North Ave is still being tested, and we probably will not have the results from the pilot study until August. So, this is a long process. It's taking time. We just recently found PCBs in the glue that held the floor tiles to the cement. So this is obviously not good. And we have to find out how deeply those PCBs have been absorbed into the cement. How far down do they go? And then figure out how to deal with that. We are in the process of evaluating our superintendent. That process will probably be finished sometime in April, and then we will make the results public probably in late April, so you'll all be able to see that. You've heard that there are recovery funds for schools. Those are being obviously allocated at this time, but it does look like the Burlington School District will be receiving a sum that is which is positive news. I read in 7 days that it was something like 14.3 million. So that is public, that's out in the public at this point. That is part of the COVID recovery package. Teacher and staff vaccinations are underway. That's going very well. And I want to end on a good note, which is that our new director of the Tech Center, Jason Gingold, was named Vermont Career and Technical Education Director of the Year. So that's really great, really good stuff. So I think that's it. I can try to answer questions if you all have some.
Okay, all right, I'm gonna try to,
If I have time.
yeah, we're gonna try to squeeze here because I want to get to city council, but it looked like Bridget, you had a question for Martine?
Martine, I have a very, very quick question. Thank you. What is the anticipated use of the $14.3 million?
Yeah, so that remains to be seen, but there is obviously a COVID recovery plan that will be put together. And those COVID funds will go to everything from academic support for students, social emotional support for students, summer help and so forth. So that just gives you a little taste of what some of that money will go toward. I believe every district is going to be required to have a recovery coordinator. So that is a new position that every district is going to have. Thank you for the question, Birgit. Bob, did you have something to say?
Well, it doesn't need to be a new position. Somebody else that's already on staff can fill the role if they're qualified. We were trying to cut cost exposure on it. So just somebody to wear the hat.
Thank you for that clarification.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
My timekeeper helpers tonight are Karen Durfee and Jeff Clark. And so I'm being admonished to move on to city council. Okay, folks? Thank you. Thanks, Martine. Sarah?
Thank you. I'm not sure if my other colleagues are here. And I'll start by giving a big shout out to our departing colleague, Franklin Paulino, who's been a good teammate with me this last year. And he will be missed, but he promises to continue to remain involved in the neighborhood. He's got a lot on his plate with his 3 little girls, but I'm sure we will be continuing to see him. In terms of updates, we had an election and we have a new counselor, Mark Barlow, who will be sworn in. I can't remember the date, first week in April. So certainly we welcome Mark, and he's well known to us. In terms of council activities, because of the election month, it actually was a little bit quieter, which was a good thing. I like that every once in a while. I'm trying to think of a few updates. We did hear from Chief Locke that our North End ambulance is on the way, and they're beginning to recruit 9 new firefighters, and they hope to roll that out by the beginning of August, assuming they can get the number of firefighters that they need and get them all trained up. So that's very exciting news. In terms of you were talking about the recovery funds, we did learn on Monday night that Burlington will get about $19 million. We're just beginning the process, and we're just beginning the process of our regular budget planning. So this will go hand in hand. We don't know all the rules, and that's makes it complicated, but we're certainly looking forward to using it. And then Representative Peter Welsh also joined us Monday night and said that he believes we're actually eligible for another $8 million. And again, it's hot off the press. It's very unclear. There is a very preliminary budget on board docs under the city's finance committee, but I know that's going to be consuming our budgeting and finance discussions in the next couple of months. In terms of other issues that we've talked about at the council level, there's a proposal to require rental housing to meet newer weatherization standards, and we're working on that. You can expect to see in the next month or so some proposals around short-term rentals. The CD&R committee, which I sit on, is working, and on the 31st, we'll be discussing a proposal to develop a council on aging for the city. So we're very excited about that. And we've got actually lots of participation from neighbors in this end of town, the Heineberg Center, our Age Well representatives, and Ethan Allen Home. So I think we'll be coming up with some good stuff there. Tonight, we're going to hear from the Talitha consultants who were hired to do a process of community engagement around police transformation, and they certainly will explain their role. But I just want to point out that that's one of two consulting firms we have, and we signed a contract with another company called CNA, and they will do a full operational assessment. So they're going to more look at the nuts and the bolts of the police department, and staffing levels will be kind of under their bailiwick. And I believe Talitha's going to be looking more outward at some of the community relationships. And I think that's what they're going to be talking to us later tonight around. Just trying to think what else we've got. We had come to consensus on City Place, but as you read in the paper, there is still an encumbering lawsuit, not by the city, but some private citizens. So that's moving, but not too fast. I guess that's and I think Martine mentioned we had a great meeting on Monday night to educate the council on some of the educational issues and so this weighting formula, which is significant in how we set our tax rate. But I'm not even sure Martine knows this, but the Senate today passed a bill related to move a study committee on the weighting formula forward. So that's just a positive step, and it's critical to Burlington. It's unfortunate that it's a very hot political issue, and we'll take a task force and a lot of negotiating and compromising, and Burlington's been at the short end of the stick, as Martine pointed out, for 20 years. So this is it's a little step forward, but hopefully a helpful step forward.
Yeah, Sarah, I think it's called S13 is the bill.
Yes, yeah. So it passed through the Senate. It still has to go to the House, but at least that's a good step. And I'm happy to answer any questions. Jennifer,
any questions for Sarah while we try to get Carol Odie unmuted?
I think I can get her unmuted. I'll work on that.
Okay.
Is she calling in right now?
Yeah, she's one of the telephone logins, but we're trying to get to her, but not doing it very elegantly. So
Sam, I just sent you an email.
Yeah, I just saw. I asked both of them to unmute, so they should get a prompt on their phone.
Right, I've been doing it too, so they're probably going to get a lot of prompts.
Liam, she is the 802-238-6252.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I've asked her, send her prompts too, so.
Jennifer, it looked like you had a question.
No, I was just trying to signal Jeff that he had his microphone turned off.
We need no hand signals for this whole brave new world.
Well, we've got about 1 minute left, so I don't know about unmuting these phones because we're going to stay on time.
okay, well then, while we struggle with that, I think Matt Halbert, would you like to do introductions on our next presenter, please?
I would be happy to. I think it goes without mention that folks know Eric Farrell. He's a Ward 7 New North End resident and I would say developer that we're all familiar with. I showed a unit in one of his buildings in South Burlington today and it's still standing. So good guy. Jessica LaFowl is also on this call. Jessica is his executive assistant and they're going to give us a rundown of what's going on at Cambrian Rise. So Eric and Jessica, I'll let you jump in.
All right, just for the record, I paid Matt to say that.
Yeah. Checks in the mail, right?
Yeah,
Not
exactly.
enough, not enough.
Yeah. I think Jess is going to show, you have to share a screen with her so that she can show some pictures, which is way above my pay grade. So anyway, we're chugging along. I think that's an accurate description. This is a view from just over the rooftop of Liberty House, former orphanage, looking towards the lake at buildings that do not presently exist, but will in the hopefully near future. So we're going to show you a site plan, but I'll give you a very quick rundown of where we're at. And Jess, are you able to highlight a particular building? But anyway, she can do what she can do, and I'll just keep talking. And in July, the summer of 2017, we opened up Liberty House. Most of you know, 64 apartments, 1 condominium. In October of 19, Champlain Housing Trust opened up Laurentide, which is 76 units of affordable family housing. And in June of 2020, last year, the City Council approved us for an increase in our overall density at Cambrian Rise from 770 to 950 units, residential units plus non-residential units. There's actually no density limit in this district. It's a floor area ratio. The only place a density cap lived was in my development agreement that I signed 5 years ago. And so the council just simply lifted that cap from 770 to 950. Same number of buildings. The site plan is not going to change significantly. Then in July of last year, we opened up 90 units, the old classroom, Burlington College classroom building, and then an addition onto that building, 90 apartments. We're going to open up 4 more in May on the first floor of the classroom building, in part because because of COVID, reduced the amount of commercial space a little bit and added 4 more units. Cathedral Square is going to open Juniper House, I believe in April, 1st of April. They've been putting ads in the paper. So that building, I think it got its CO at the end of last week. And just as a side note, the Burlington High School Tech Center has been renting about 10,000 feet from us on the first floor of the building we opened last summer. They moved in December, and then they're moving out at the end of June and going uptown onto Cherry Street. And so later this year, sometime this summer, we expect to break ground on the 3rd of 3 apartment buildings we're going to build, called Sunset House, 125 units, market rate, about 3,000 feet of commercial space. And then later this year, or the first quarter of next year, we're going to break ground on a condominium building that runs from North Avenue down to the where the road turns east and north and south. 202 units. We'll build it in 2 phases, probably take 2.5 to 3 years. Kind of hoping Matt sells half of them. And there'll be some inclusionary units in that building, and there'll be all manner of price points, starting from in the 200s and with a couple of them tipping the scale at probably 900 or $1 million. And then beyond that, I'm talking to CHT about building H, an L-shaped building. which they want to do in probably 2 or 3 year phases, 1-year phases of 72 inclusionary condominiums. And then we'll round out Cambrian Rise with what we call right now Building Q, because we haven't named it, in the northwest corner. And then south of that, Building P. Both of those buildings will be for sale condominiums. They might contain a restaurant. We've got a placeholder for a small boutique hotel. Jury's out as to whether we'll do that. So if all goes well, we'll be done Cambrian Rise in, I don't know, 5 or 6 years. A little difficult to say. It's all market driven. The building that we're starting this summer, we were supposed to start a year ago. And so we got a little slowed down by COVID. But the response to the units that we did open has been unbelievable. Building filled up in about half the time that I thought it would take. So, and we think we have some pretty happy campers living at Cambrian Rise. And when we're all done, there'll be, if we do build out 950 units, there'll be about 500 apartments and 450 condominiums. 25% of everything, rental and condominiums, will meet the inclusionary requirements of the city of Burlington, which is part of the zoning and part of my development agreement. So that's a very short update. Happy to answer any questions. We're pretty excited about it. It's a lot of work, but we do what we love. Oh, there's what it'll look like when hopefully before I turn 80. That's what it'll look like. So any questions?
I think I saw Bridget's hand go up first.
Just looking at this picture that you have on the screen now, I'm assuming therefore that folks who are using the bike path and those on the lake will see the disruption along the tree line. You'll see your development from the bike path and the lake.
Well, it's actually pretty difficult to see our project from the bike path as a pedestrian, because it's pretty heavily treed, as you know, and all those trees are on city property. We sold the westerly part of our land, including Texaco Beach, to the city back in 2016. And we are going to make a paved connection from our project down to the bike path. That won't happen until mid to late next year, sometime in 22, summer and fall of 22. But I don't think that, certainly the operation of the bike path is not going to be disrupted. And frankly, I think that it would be pretty easy to go up and down the bike path and not realize what's going on the project, because you're sitting down several, 30, 40 feet below the meadow. And that the same is true on the lake. You can start to see buildings if you're a mile or more out in the lake. The closer you get to shore, the less you can see.
Thank you.
Jennifer.
Eric, once you've completed the total build out for Cambrian Rise, about how many people will be residing there in total?
I'm guessing that there will be 1,200 people living there, 1,300 people. We'll be the 20th largest city in the state, except we won't be a city. But it's hard to say exactly, but I think there'll easily be 1,200 people living there.
Were there requirements to be able to handle that much more traffic?
Well, we went through the complete process through the city and the state, and VTrans weighed in. We had a comprehensive traffic analysis done, which DPW reviewed, and even though it's not a public road, VTrans reviewed our traffic analysis because of offsite impacts. And we have to make contributions, for example, to the improvements that are being made at the Rotary, on Shelburne Road and Shelburne Street in south end of town. But all the professionals who analyzed our traffic analysis deemed it to be acceptable, apparently.
Thank you.
Thanks. Amy?
Thank you. Eric, you mentioned commercial space and a restaurant, and can you speak to what some of the ideas are around commercial space as well as any community gathering spaces, that kind of thing?
Well, we have a commitment. I can't disclose who it is, but we do have a commitment for about a 3,000 square foot cafe, deli, grab and go food operation that's going to go in the building that we finished last summer, be right on the corner, right across from Cathedral Square. Actually, right on the corner is the second nicest bus stop in the state of Vermont, the first nicest being the one that the city owns downtown. But we built a climate controlled bus stop, and immediately behind that, very visible and accessible, will be a cafe. I don't think we'll attract a real full-scale restaurant until the tail end of the project. We've kind of earmarked one or either of the last two buildings for that if we're able to attract it. Because I think they'd want the project to be pretty much built out. Commercial spaces, it's a little bit of of course, the commercial market's pretty quiet right now. But we're going to try and strike a balance between, needing to obviously fill whatever commercial space we have with uses that serve the residents that live at Cambrian Rise and in the greater, neighborhood. So, as odd as it might sound, we're not looking just for who can pay the most rent. We really want uses that will enrich the lives of the people who are there. So we're going to be pretty picky about that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I think Kate, you're up next.
Thank you. I was wondering, and maybe this is difficult for you to answer because it's sort of a micro question. You did a lot of very nice clearing along the boundary fence with the Lakeview Cemetery. And I was wondering what the maintenance plan was for that, because that's sort of been a wildlife corridor. And also I just wanted to make a plug. I'm a native plant fanatic, and I think we just need to plant more of them. And I've looked at your original plans that you put in. I just want to urge you, as you do landscape plantings, to use as many native plants as possible in that. But do you know what the plan is for the ongoing maintenance of that sort of hedgerow with the cemetery?
Well, there's a 30-foot strip along the cemetery boundary line that between the cemetery and what will be the public right-of-way, because it is a horseshoe-shaped road, public street that we're going to build. And that strip of land is, we committed to keeping it open other than just vegetation and trees. And it will be owned by the Cambrian Rise Lot Owners Association, and it will be maintained by that association. All the buildings and lots in the development are constituent members. And so the primary responsibilities of that association are to maintain the open spaces, and there's another open space lot that the association owns, plus to maintain the stormwater system. In that, we are very aware that has been for a long time a wildlife corridor for those little critters that want to challenge crossing North Avenue. So, and our landscape architect, TJ Boyle and Associates, are very aware of doing any replantings with native species.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to squeeze in one more question, and Jean, that's you.
Hi, my question had to do more with the rooftops on the right, on the condominiums that are bordering the road in.
Yep.
One looks as though it has solar panels on the roof.
Yep.
And I'm wondering what your rationale about the solar panels were, as I don't see any on any other roofs. And then the other was in the building closer to North Ave, that's adjacent to that solar roofed building. What's on that rooftop? It's got some kind of shade thing on the top. And is the parking underneath that building?
There's, yes, there's about 300 parking spaces and 3 levels underneath the building that you're looking at. And on the roof closest to North Avenue, we call that our sunrise veranda, because you have pretty significant views of Mount Mansfield and points east from that location. The middle section of the roof are actually community gardens, because we wanted to utilize that rooftop space in a positive way with that for agriculture. And then the westerly portion of that roof, you are correct, is going to be dedicated to solar panels. And all the buildings we build are, we're making them available for solar panels. Cathedral Square has solar panels on their roof, as does Champlain Housing Trust. And I expect the building that we build this summer, which is the middle building that Jess is pointing out, will likely do solar panels on that roof as well.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, thank you very much. Good job, Eric and Jess. And any idea when or if you might want to come back at some point in time? Keep us posted.
I think it probably would make sense for us to maybe come back sometime this summer, mid to late summer, as things evolve even more. We'd like to keep you, fully informed, but don't want to waste your time either. Meantime, if anybody wants to buy a condo, call Matt.
All right. Well,
we'll be on the market this summer.
All right. So the steering committee will be, we'll keep in touch. Okay.
Yep. Keep in touch with Jess. She tells me what to do on a daily basis.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. All right. I'm getting the signal from Karen. It's time to move on. We had our next presentation is Director of Property Assessment. And if you aren't already aware, the new appraisal is in full progress. So I'd like to switch to John Vickery. Welcome.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for having me here. I really appreciate being able to speak to the Ward 4 and Ward 7 group. You're the last presentation I'm going to make before we send out valuation notices. And so I really appreciate this. I have a presentation that's going to take about 8 minutes, and then I can leave the rest for questions and answers and so forth. So if you don't mind, I'll pull up my presentation. Oh, does everybody see that?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. So I'm John Vickery, the Burlington City Assessor, and we have been on a 2-year process of conducting the citywide revaluation project for 2021, which is near the completion point, or near the point where it is about to become public for taxpayers to weigh in on their valuation and to review their property. And so I want to give you a couple facts and some information that I hope will be helpful. Here's a graph on the market since 2006 of your typical single family home in Burlington. We have seen the market change in a positive direction from a value point of view, from 295,000 in 2016 to projected to be 392,200 in 2021. Most people are quite aware that values have increased. Our reappraisal will be based on April 1st, 2021. We were mandated by the state of Vermont Tax Department to conduct this revaluation because we were not meeting statistical standards of measurement for equity. And so they told us that we need to do this or they would withhold education funding from us. And they do this to a lot of towns every year. Once, if a town does not meet measures of equity. So we went ahead and we started the project. We hired companies, we put out bids, and this reappraisal has cost us about 1.1 million, which most of it has been paid for through the state. They give an appropriation a little over $100,000 to us each year, and we put that into a reserve, which is by and large paid for the entire project here. The last reappraisal was done in 2005, so too long ago, and it's a wise idea for us to make these changes. We also changed our valuation software and updated all the tables and have run a lot of statistical tests to measure the market and have applied those measurements to the greater market, mostly single family homes, condos, all types of property, commercial as well. The timeline is on April 1st, change of value notices will be in the mail or ready to be in the mail. We will have our information to the printer on the 31st. In April, the Board of Assessor property appeal hearings will be held, and the process will be mostly virtual for health and safety concerns around COVID. And the letter will provide information on how to have a hearing if you choose to have one. May and June, there'll be a lot of reviewing going on and final valuation decisions by the board. And then by July, just like every July, tax bills will have the new valuations. Bear in mind though, with the new valuations, the tax rate will be lowered so that there is a similar amount of money raised. Values will increase, tax rates will lower, and it should mean that the city will raise about the same amount of money they have this current year, with a few increases for increases in budgets and so forth, that type of thing. Also for your information, we know that the values will be based on the current real estate market, and the legal date of value is April 1st, 2021 for this year. Tyler Technologies is the general and residential property appraisal company. So if you have an appeal and you call the phone number, you may end up talking to someone from Tyler Technologies. I just want you to be aware of that. If you own a commercial property, Safeguard Organic Analytics, they focused on commercial property valuations, and they do valuations all over New England. Tyler Technologies, by the way, they are all over the country, but they have a division that is more New England based. And when we send out the letters, please read the whole letter. I have a lot of information on it that is going to be useful to our citizens of Burlington. Our website will be updated, of course. We have for years have had a property database where you can look at your property and other properties. That'll be updated by April 1st. Additionally, there'll be project information and other information on how to file an appeal if you choose to. And if you are appealing your property value, there's a few steps to take. We hope that most everyone will file an electronic appeal through the assessor's website if they choose to, and a Tyler Technologies administrator will call or email to schedule the meetings. Those meetings will be held in April, and they will be through the Zoom meeting platform that we are on right now. There's other options as well, but we're hoping that 98% of the folks will do this appeal through the electronic means, but there's other options. That is my presentation, and I appreciate it, and I'm here to answer questions.
All right, well, very well done. Looks like we've got plenty of time, about 10 minutes for questions. I think I saw Jennifer's hand first.
Thank you. John, will the letter that you send out on April 1st or shortly thereafter give us both the figures before the reappraisal and then the ones that come out of the appraisal so we can make it a comparison?
Yes, it will. It'll give you the value currently and the new valuation. And also we're hoping that, well, we will have the online database set up so you can review the data that derive the value, as well as the ability to notice other folks' properties that are similar to yours to get an understanding of what has happened with valuations. Anyone else?
Okay, yeah, Matt?
Hi. Hi, John. How are you?
I'm good.
I have a quick question. We have a timeline of when the new valuations are coming out, but without the updated tax rate, it's difficult to determine the incremental tax burden increase or decrease. So I'm wondering when those two pieces of information are going to be brought together so we can know what does this mean for our bill?
Yeah, that's a really good question, because we don't have a tax rate currently, and it's a give and take. The treasurer's office derives the tax rate through methods of this is what's needed to be raised, and they're still working on that, as well as we are finalizing this whole process, and they need to know where the total values are going to be. Let me give you an example. The last reappraisal I was part of, I've been here for a long time now. In 2005, when we conducted that reappraisal, the municipal tax rate was $1.03, and then it was lowered to 63 cents. Excuse my voice, 63 cents. So it dropped quite a bit. Meanwhile, the total values of all properties increased. I think it was like 1.7 billion, and then now it's at 3.8 billion. And when we do this reappraisal, that 3.8 billion in total real estate value will be around 5 billion. So expect this big increase of all the values put together for the city of Burlington, and a tax rate dropping quite a bit. So by and large, the tax rate is revenue neutral. The city is not allowed to collect more taxes just because of a reappraisal. They just have to cover the budget. And so that's why there's this change. The good thing about a reappraisal is it's done for equitable purposes. In other words, over time, different properties appreciate at different rates. And so some folks are going to benefit and others are not. They're going to be paying more, but maybe they've been benefiting the last several years with market appreciation. So we're hoping this reset fixes those problems. The other thing is the citizens' involvement, or the property owner's involvement, is critical as well, because they know their property better than the appraiser. And so we're going to look forward to at least making sure that the data on the property is correct. And hopefully that'll result in a fair valuation. That's the goal. If there's more questions, I'm happy to.
Yeah, John, can I ask a follow-up to make sure, clarify what I heard? That I know that the process was initiated in response to the common level of appraisal with the education funding mechanism, but did I just hear you say that the municipal tax rate will also be adjusted downward to reflect a total increase in the grand list?
Yes, the municipal rate adjusts as well as the education rate. And so we'll have a vastly different tax rate, lower. If it stayed the same, then there'd be a windfall of money for the city council. They're not allowed to have that. There's provisions that they can't have a windfall of money. So it has to drop so that it's still raising what is approved by the current budget. And that's how this works.
Thank you. I appreciate
John,
that.
I had a question for you.
Okay.
Hello, John. This is
Peter.
Peter Clavel. Good to see you. And I was with you during the last reappraisal.
Yeah.
It wasn't fun, and I'm sure this one won't be fun.
Well,
but my question is, it seems that there's been a dramatic increase in the value of residential property, but particularly with COVID, will be a dramatic diminishment in the value of commercial and industrial property. So are you envisioning a significant shift from commercial industrial property to residential properties, resulting in a significant tax increase for residential property owners?
Yeah, there's going to be some shift. Before COVID was here, the equity among different types of properties, like commercial, retail, office, industrial, multifamily, condos, was more even. And what we've seen because of COVID is a larger increase because rates dropped. And so there's this push on the market as rates were dropped probably for market stimulation of nervousness of COVID's effect on the market. So people started refinancing. Negatively, hotels have been hit really hard, and office has not performed as well as retail. So there's a disruption in the cash flow of those types of properties. And so we are going to have they're not going to increase as much. So that should shift the tax burden more onto residential, unfortunately. The thing that I would say about that is that in a few years, if we watch the market, we could petition to have some adjustment if statistically it shows that there's some inequity to correct, let's say, hotels and offices or other properties that have been affected by COVID begin to stabilize a few years out, and we start seeing that they're improving, that there could be an adjustment down the road. But we're mandated by state law to appraise as of April 1st of every year, and this is the year of a reappraisal. So we're trying to abide by the state law by applying what is here.
So John, it sounds to me like Peter knew the answer to that question before he asked it. But I'm a little confused if commercial properties are being valued, if cash flow is a factor in commercial assessment, that doesn't really apply to residential properties. So where's that sort of difference in approach come from?
Well, investors purchase properties because of they're looking to make money, and it's different than living at a residence and you're not looking at a cash flow for single family home. Apartments have performed very well, so they're going to follow along with single family homes, and industrial properties are in hot demand as well. So they have no effect on. They've had COVID has very little effect on them. Its hotels have been greatly affected. With their occupancy rates substantially down. We're not going to lower those values because the market's not suggesting that. But they're not going to increase to the same degree that single family homes, apartments, industrial types of properties or other properties have. It's just the appropriate approach to value for the type of property.
Okay, thank you. Oh, and it looks like I'm getting a timeout from my timekeepers. You did an excellent job of fitting that all in. So thank you very much. We'll be watching for our letters.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, John.
Thank
Yeah.
you, everyone.
You're welcome. Karen, I'm going to ask Karen Durfee to introduce our next set of presenters.
So I see Talitha Consultants, as Sarah Carpenter so graciously mentioned. They are the consultancy working to gather community feedback on public safety. And so I don't want to waste time introducing them. There is somewhere on the call, there is, oh,
I am here.
Naima and Karis. All right. So I'm just, you can take it away whenever you're ready.
Yes, I see that Skylar is raising his hand. Skylar, do you want to?
Skylar.
No, go ahead.
Okay, great.
Hi, Skylar. I didn't realize you were on the call. Hello, welcome.
All good, all good. I'm happy to be here for the first time in the Wards 4 and 7 NPA. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much.
This ward, 4 and 7, have more people than Ward 1 and 8 where we first went. So yay! If there's a competition, you all won. So we are Talitha Consults from all the way from Washington State, and it's 517 over here. So kudos to all of you for hanging in there. And I have to say that Burlington, Vermont has been very welcoming since we've been coming into this conversation. And I'm just going to put it out there. Public safety, public health, these are two very contentious topics. And yet you all have been very gracious in accepting us and welcoming us just as we are. I like to light a candle because it is a very hard time right now. As you can probably tell, I am an Asian American woman. And let me tell you, if you just expect me to show up all chirpy and happy, I probably am showing up that way because that's who I am. But it has been a difficult time for many of us. So I light this candle in solidarity with all humanity who is crying out for a safer, healthier world. And we all share the same sky. With that, let's just take just 30 seconds of silence, will you? If you can just shut off your camera, I encourage you to do so. As you come back into the meeting, do not worry, I did not abandon you. I'm back here. If Karima would be so kind to tell me what you see on your screen, that would be great.
You have the agenda with the welcome and introductions and the overview.
So Karima, why don't you introduce yourself and go ahead and read our roles if you can.
Hi, so I'm Karima Edwards, and I'm really excited to be with you all and humbled that you let us into this space. I am the project manager on the Talitha side. Skylar, of course, is the project manager on Burlington side. And I will be responsible for maintaining the scope and the schedule and the budget for this project. So our roles as facilitators, we will guide the group through the conversation. We'll stay focused on the agenda and achieving outcomes, and use the ground rules to assist the group. So we're going to be here to usher you all through this. We're really here to listen. As far as for you all as meeting participants, what we need from you is to feel open about sharing your input and listening to the input that's also shared by others, and provide your reactions and your thoughts as well.
Excellent. And are you able to hear me?
Yep.
Good. If I could have, please forgive me if I'm just like randomly calling on you, because I just call whoever I see on my screen. So if Mr. Comstock would be so kind to read some of the agreements. So maybe the first 2 bullet points, Mr. Comstock.
Seek first to understand, then be understood, and pay attention to your words may impact others and how you make meaning of what others say to you.
And basically what it is we hear a lot in our society, oh, that's not what I intend. But we know so well that a lot of intention has a lot of impact, and oftentimes hurtful impact. And so the third, if I could have Commissioner Durfee read the rest of the agreements, I would appreciate that.
Okay, recognize that we all carry wisdom. Value the process. Value shared humor. Allow yourself to listen deeply.
I'm going to stop sharing the screen for a bit and see is everyone okay with that? If you are, can you just like do this? This is clapping in the ASL language. If you're not okay, you just need to unmute yourself and say boo, then I know. Okay, I'm not hearing any boo right now. So let me share the screen back. All right, so we will be moving things through because we need to stop talking and start taking documentation. The very first questions that we like for each person to just unmute themselves and talk is, what does a healthy community mean to you? And I'm gonna be typing. So if you don't hear from me, silent, Karima will be that person for you, okay? So I'm gonna quiet myself. And who will be this brave soul who's gonna do the first talk? No question is wrong question. I'm sorry, no answer is wrong answer. You are speaking for yourself from your heart, mind, and soul. What does a healthy community mean to you?
Thank you. I would say that that a majority of voices are heard on important decisions, and that big decisions are not made based on one loud person, because that's what it feels like, unfortunately, sometimes.
Thank you.
I'll piggyback on that and say a lively discussion and a respectful discussion.
Kate, can you talk a little bit more about lively?
Yeah, to me, a healthy community includes engagement and discussing. To me, that's part of health, is that we can talk about things and that we're interested in one another and in our perspectives, rather than just pushing our own personal perspective, and learning from one another. And doing so again in a respectful way, rather than in a, it's my way or the highway kind of way.
Thank you, Kate.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Is it okay to just jump in?
Sure.
Accessible resources that people know where to find the things that they need, that they're easy to find and they know where to go to get the things they need.
open government and transparency.
Thank you.
No,
Who's next?
no one is afraid to walk in the community.
No one is afraid to walk in the community. Thank you.
A healthy community to me is one that accepts all of its citizens, no matter race, abilities, age, and there's no stigma, there's no prejudice. It's a free and open community that is all about recognizing and appreciating each other.
Yes. I'm going to ask that someone, Karima, if you can track, or Mr. Comstock could help track the hands that are going up. I love the hands are going up, and that's why I do not want to miss anybody, okay? So the last person, I'm going to type in your thing.
And Karis, it might be a little bit easier to see if I can see everyone's screens instead of the view of the mural.
Okay, so while you're doing that, I'm going to call on Jenna O'Donnell.
Thank you.
Hi. So one of the things, or a few of the things that make a healthy community, everyone is well nourished, well housed, and has access to the healthcare that they need, both physical and mental.
And Jenna, are you talking about nutrition, or are you talking about emotional? What type of nourishment? Can you expand on that a little bit?
Folks have access to the food that they feel is appropriate for them and their culture, and they can afford that food.
Thank you.
Amy.
People know their neighbors and feel willing to offer help and ask for help.
Thank you, Amy.
Gary, did you have your hand up? Oops.
Actually, I spoke already. Thank you.
Right. Well, just checking back to make sure. Well, this is a pleasant surprise that this process went live for us this evening. We were expecting an introduction, but we might as well make a good opportunity of being live. So Jennifer?
I love it. It's the free outdoor events, the fact you can get community garden space. You don't really have to own a car to live here if you also work in Burlington. Some of the features I like that I think make a healthy community.
Thank you. Who's next? Leah?
Hi, I already said this, but it didn't get written down. Open, transparent government.
Thank you.
TJ, back to you.
Thank you. I think that really embracing diversity and trying to leverage diversity to make our community stronger. There's lots of great research that shows that when we learn from other cultures, that everyone benefits.
TJ.
Ian.
Oh, Ian.
How to get back on.
Hi, this is Shanta. I'm using my husband's site. Anyway, for me, I guess healthy would have to also include environmental issues like clean air, clean lake. Yeah, I mean, I was going to include also maybe transit. That, you know, we're a family of cyclists, so I think safe travel. But that's, I guess you're talking about safety in the next section. So, okay, I'll just stick with environmental health.
She did say the lake as well.
Oh, that's what I was going to ask. You said Clean Lake?
Yeah, Clean Lake. Yeah. And not, and, you know, reduced chemicals, reduced carbon footprint, those factors.
So it's okay if sometimes things overlap, because we do find that health and safety are something that does. And you'll see as we start answering the question about what a safe community means, that there are some things that point directly to health. So you can't have one without the other.
There is every now and then I have to just jump in and talk, and I'm sorry because once I share my screen, something happened to my mute button. I want to call back on the person who talks about embracing diversity. I want to more what I call probing question for you. What is the difference between embracing and accepting? Because earlier someone said about accepting everyone. What's the difference?
I was really focused more on leveraging and highlighting, and, you know, restaurants, shops, parts of our community. I think the more we can include everyone in diversity, the better our community is, the healthier it is. Does that help?
Yes, sir.
Okay, Betsy.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
I do believe that there's a transformative process going on about a mostly or majority white community, progressive community, that is trying earnestly to figure out terms like white supremacy and, you know, how we bridge the divide between those people that are so knowledgeable about what they've lost and those of us that have been ignorant. So far, I think I'm echoing someone else. I think there's a division being created. This is what you have to do. This is who you should be. And I think we need to take time. I think we need to bring people together in groups in some manner and share, really listen to each other, to learn, and to not have this, what I think is an increasing divide in our community between different factions. And I think it can be done. I think it's a process. I think it's not quick. And that's part of what has come out of some of our city, you know, elected officials, is we need to do this immediately. And if we don't bring everyone together and we don't listen, not that we all have to agree about everything, but to take some time, to take some opportunity, I think we are not going to make the same progress we could make otherwise.
Thank you, Elizabeth. I see Anne.
Like Anne.
I think a healthy community involves presence of tension and disagreement, and embracing of a loss of a neutral ground, I guess. Space for disagreement and space for the discomfort that comes with not prioritizing neutrality.
Okay, can people hear me?
Yep.
Okay, please unpack that. That is a lot to unpack. What do you mean by not prioritizing neutrality? Because one of the things that facilitators are trained to do is not to assume that we know what you're meaning, right? So tell us what you mean.
Thanks. I realized when I said that it was a lot of kind of vague words.
Oh.
Sometimes I think that sometimes there is an emphasis on not rocking the boat and trying to stay neutral in order to not upset or offend. And for there to be real dialogue and progress, there's going to be upset and boat rocking. And so there has to be space for that to happen.
Excellent. Thank you, Anne. I'm gonna ask someone else to call on another hand. I can't see hands, so.
Karis, I think we can move to the second part, which is the question about a safe community.
Excellent. All right. So again, a similar exercise. And I want to remind each other, if you have already spoken for the first time, so maybe you might want to encourage other people who haven't spoken to speak this time. But if nobody's speaking, I don't want crickets, okay? So here we go. And I'm going to rely on Karima and Mr. Comstock to call on people, okay? All right, friends, I'm going to say rock the boat here. Let's go, let's go.
I've got a suggestion. I'm going to go down the road of whether this is under healthy or safety. I don't think it really matters. I'm going to go down the road that nobody's brought up that may or may not be relevant, but I think it is. And I'm just going to say economics. If you think of a depressed community, picture movies with depressed neighborhoods, crime, and then think of, Mayville, where there's prosperity, neighbors work together, neighbors support each other. I'm not really speaking to race or color or sex, just an overall kind of Mayville approach, and that may be sort of silly, but I think that it equates both to healthy minds, healthy neighborhoods, safe neighborhoods.
I can't see anybody, but this is Karen. I don't have my hand raised, but I will offer a safe community means to me, as a domestic violence survivor and someone who has relied on the police, a competent, culturally competent police force, trained to be sensitive to the diverse needs of the community, and also trained to use any sort of physical violence as the last resort whenever possible.
Can someone help me out here? The last resort is RESORT, right?
Yep.
Okay.
We have a hand raised, Amy Branch.
Thank you, Karen.
Just kind of building on what Karen said would be minimal crime. And when crime does occur, I agree with her response about the police response, but then also a community response that looks at restorative justice and repair, and not just punishment.
Martine, are you ready? No, you're muted still.
Sorry, I hadn't done that in a long time. I was on a good streak. Amy just brought up what I was going to say. I think a safe community has a school district that really cares about its students, is really invested in their showing up to school, engages in restorative practice, and does not look at simply punitive measures in terms of educating students.
Jeff Clark.
think a safe community is one in which people are able to express their opinions.
Fantastic.
Okay, before we go to Jenna, I want to make sure, I was trying to read that note. Did we capture everything you said, Martine? I don't know if you can. Yeah, okay. Does that look good to you, Martine?
Sure, I think, yeah. A safe community has a school district that just the words need to be.
Yeah. All of this will be pre-proofed and revised by a researcher. Right now, this is more like jotting down the notes. So
Thank you, Karis.
you're welcome.
Okay. All right. Yeah, and we'll get to this in the Q&A session at the end, but I'm also sort of curious, what is the review opportunity, for our NPA group to take a look at what we created when we get done?
Okay. We can talk about that. But let's see here. I have this little spot where I give you a quick overview of the process where we will go. So we'll get there, but let's and of course you guys also have the benefit of having the commissioner in your ward, so she's also in the joint committee. So we're covered.
Let's go back to Jenna then.
This note might sound trivial, but just thinking of what Sylvia was saying, and as a woman who runs at night or in the mornings, streetlights, basic utilities that make you feel visible and safe.
Let's see. Jeff, have you got all the hands?
Well, I'll keep going. So go with Sylvia unless Karima wants to do the calling, but Sylvia?
Peter is trying to raise his hand.
Yeah, I think we're looking at a microcosm of safety. The real unsafeties are global war and destruction of the environment. We're in our little microcosm, not worried about any of those, but those are the things that could end it all tomorrow or this afternoon.
So I was going to put either under healthy or safe communities, freedom from toxins, including pesticides, to protect ourselves, our water, wildlife, life. Freedom from toxins.
Christy?
Yeah, I want to focus on as a safe community would be a community that incorporates different approaches to hearing from different communities and to procedures about how we engage with one another. In like regular language, what I mean is like, there's a way that things have been done that work for a certain sector of our population, and we know the rules, and we function well in it, and therefore we have power in it. But I would want to be very thoughtful about, well, what are the rules or what are the norms that we want when addressing any issue of safety, so that more voices are not only allowed to participate, but are happy to participate.
Okay, so I am gonna ask for approval from Christy. So what I heard you said, Christy, is that you wanted to see in the discourses, here I am using the word discourse, in the discussions of safety related topics, you want people to have an engagement method that's relatable to normal people, and then thoughtful about communicating about rules and norms, not just people who does the job talking amongst themselves, right? Drinking your own Kool-Aid, so to speak, but actually normalizing our conversation, like normal people talking, right?
Not really.
So that's what I was hearing. So maybe you need to tell me more.
Yeah, my apologies. I was rambling a bit. It's late and I'm tired.
Can I try to paraphrase for Christy that I think what's missing from what you captured was
Mr. Comstock, I'm gonna have Christy speak for herself, okay?
Sure.
So after she does, you can chime in with your own opinion. Okay, go ahead, Christy.
Thank you. That in community discussions, we utilize a breadth of norms so that all people are happy to participate. We expand our understanding of norms and include new ways.
Excellent. Mr. Comstock, do you want to add to something else additionally?
Yeah, I still think you're missing the concept of cultural competency in address, how you communicate to different constituencies. And Christy can either, concur with that idea or not.
It's still a good idea. It's still a great idea, Jeff. Let's leave it.
Yeah, I think if I would, not to change Jeff's idea, but like I would even say cultural competency regarding how we communicate among ourselves. So it's not like, oh, we're trying to reach them, so we got to do it this way, but we're just already doing it in a way that people want to participate.
May I ask who is them? Who is them? And to follow up on Jeff, Mr. Comstock's comment, cultural competency, is it just for people who don't look like us, or even among people who look like us? What are we talking? Who is us and who is them?
Well, that was them in quotes, so let me just rephrase it so it's clear in anything written out of this. Trying to reach across difference in our community.
Excellent. I love the clarity that Christy is bringing up, right? Trying to reach across differences. Anybody else?
Yes, it looks like we have a few more people, but I know that we want to really hear from the community what their ideas are. So let's see who else has been waiting. Jeff, can you help out a little bit with who's
okay. Sure. Let's see. I think Annie was up a while ago.
Yeah, so it'll be Adam this time, but we're sharing a screen here.
Okay.
So yeah, I think I was trying to think through my head a way to make it concise, but then I figured maybe we want more more context. So what I think safety, without the basics of everyone having a home to live in, food to eat, and a job that pays a fair wage, then I don't think we can ever get to safety, because those core things generate hope, and a loss of hope is a really scary place to be for anyone. So.
Gary?
Safe community to me is where everyone is treated with dignity and respect, and cultural competence is for every one of 42,000 people that live in our city. It's not a us and them, it's a we.
Okay.
Jeff, do you need help?
No, well,
Jennifer,
she's
you
still
wait.
typing, so I'm waiting.
Oh, Jeff, you don't have to wait. I can type faster than you think. Just kidding. Keep going. And folks,
Okay.
this is not be all end all, okay? We don't
Okay.
disappear.
All right,
So
Kate.
we're gonna leave you my email and stuff, but keep talking.
All right, Kate, you're up.
Okay, this is piggybacking on what a couple of other people said, but expanding it maybe. I think a safe community is a community in which everyone can walk around without worry about being harmed verbally or physically by another person at whatever time of day or evening they want. And everyone is everyone, old, young, white, non-white, weird, not weird, without fear of reprisal.
Karima, I see we have a set of group 2 questions. Is that something we need to try to get to, or do you want to keep working on what you're doing?
Okay, Jeff, you are hired. You are right, Karima? Is he
What's
hired?
that? I can't
Jeff
hear
is hired. Jeff is hired for
Oh.
Talitha Consulting. He is moving us along. So Karima and I were just texting here on this. I see, Jeff, I'm an octopus. I was typing and I was also communicating. We need to move along. However, this time is my friend, Liam, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Okay, Liam, let's break people in so that you can put in your comments, okay, Q&A. So
Great.
I'm gonna drop a question and you all are gonna be keyboard captains. No need to raise your hands. You just type in, you can be Karis now. And the question is, I'm gonna type in the question for you.
And just so you know, I'm putting you all into attendees because as an attendee, you have access to the Q&A. You'll see it when you pop in there. So give me 1 second. It'll be about a minute before everybody goes in, okay?
So Liam, when can I put the question in the Q&A?
I'll make you into a attendee right now, and so you should be able to do that. And Karis, I've unmuted you, or I've allowed you to talk in the attendees list, so you should be able to go.
Thank you, Liam. And Karima, if you can also unmute Karima. Okay, neighbors, we have put in a question. What needs are you filling in your community? You know, Karen, the only person I know is Karen in your ward, and perhaps Liam and Skylar from Burlington. You all have different positions, right? Some people spoke about schools, some people spoke about mental health, emotional support, or housing. So in your different positionality, what you do personally or professionally, what needs are you filling in your community? And yet you are seeing that certain parts are still bleeding, right? And so just type away. And if you don't have anything to type, just read what other people, other neighbors are saying, okay? There's no right or wrong answer. Type away.
And some of you are still going into the attendees list, so just give it a second. You should have access.
And there's also a little box where you can send anonymously. If you don't feel comfortable, you can hit the send anonymous and then answer. All right, so we have one person answering. I know that people are just coming in. I know that people are still typing. There's no rush. We have time. Some people talk about access to cultural foods. And if people want to talk more about what does it mean to be culturally competent? And some person talks about the need for all of us to listen from each other. In what way are you filling those needs?
And all attendees should be able to see all the questions. You can upvote and comment on other questions as well.
You can also feel free to send anonymous answers or questions if you want.
TJ, I allowed you to talk.
I lost all capability. I was in the middle of typing and then you made me an attendee and I don't see anything now.
Okay, TJ, do you want to tell me? I will type it in for you.
Sure. Oh, there it is. Sorry, it just came back. Thank you.
Okay, okay. Thank you for comments coming in. Great. Jana just took the question and flip it. What are the unmet needs, right? That's another way to ask. Why don't we just ask that? What are the unmet needs? Another way to ask a question. Another way to ask this question is, now, some people are problem solver, like my husband. So if you just want to name the unmet need, and if you want to like go ahead and say, hey, you know what, this entity needs to be doing it, feel free to do that, right? Hunger, we need to investing more. One person talks about the school district really caring and meeting students where they're at and not be punitive. And if you just want to say, name it, perfect. So you're also talking about not just what the unmet need is, you're also saying how to meet the unmet need.
Amy, do you have a question? You have your hand up.
I'm not in the right place. I'm trying to respond to this, but I'm in some other zone on
That's
Zoom.
right. I was, Amy. Yes.
You know, I am happy to type in if you are comfortable to talk, Amy.
Sure. Organized a block party in my neighborhood, created a newsletter, an e-newsletter during COVID so neighbors could support each other or help each other out.
Lovely. And so it's just the neighbors organizing neighbors.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. And Amy, are you wanting to see more of that too?
Yes.
Anyone else who wants me to type, I'm happy to do so. I understand digital access and connectivity is not always that smooth, so just holler.
You can raise your hand and I'll allow you to talk.
And also, let's keep thinking about what does it mean to feel holistically safe, right? Okay, so as people are thinking, I'm also going to drop in another question. Another question is,
Well,
we have what needs, again, I kind of asked myself ahead of time here, and how to fill unmet needs. Again, there are no right or wrong answers. So someone who talked about freedom from toxin, who are you thinking should be primarily responsible, right? That is about safety, environmental safety, right? What about public safety? Who else should be responsible? And how do we feel the unmet needs? Neighbors, great. Businesses, someone talk about economics. Yes, economic opportunities is part of safety.
Paris.
so can we, oh,
Yeah, we need to go back to the other screen. We're at time. It's Commissioner.
Oh, okay, no problem. Let's do that. So I'm gonna ask Liam to bring us back to the other screen.
Yep.
Sorry about that.
Well, folks, thank you for coming back. Karen and Jeff Comstock will have our contact info. This is not be all end all. And I'm sending Jeff and Karen a flyer to Public Town Hall, which will take place on March 30th, next Tuesday at 4 p.m. We're going to do this exercise again. So if you feel like you haven't spoken, you have more to say, please come.
That's Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
I think, I don't know what's going on. Shall we leave?
Karen, thank you, everyone.
Where is that? I missed it. Tuesday, where?
I will be sending a flyer. It's on Zoom. Unfortunately, it's not in person. It's on Zoom, and then Jeff and Karen will send out
Can I try something?
the info.
okay, I think the steering committee will make an attempt to get that contact information and repost Front Porch Forum and the North End forums, so that you know the way we communicate about NPA meetings. So we'll forward that participation information to you.
Yes, that is correct. Thank you, everyone.
Can you post it on the city's website too?
I cannot, but city employees can, and Skylar will work on that, our project manager.
Great.
Thank you so much. I just want to say thank you so much. We will get the information out to everybody who's participating. I'm on the joint committee. Sarah and Mark will be involved in those committees very shortly. So if anybody missed anything or didn't really get the breakout room thing, we'll make sure that you get an opportunity to share your thoughts with Talitha Consultants. So I appreciate it, everyone. Skylar, wherever you are, there's 4 screens. Thank you so much for coming, and yeah, we'll see you soon. We'll see you soon, and we'll get information out to each and every person that's on this Zoom meeting. I know it was a lot to absorb, breakout rooms, and but the feedback was really beautiful. It's really great to learn more about the community, and it was it was a surprise, but definitely a great meeting. Thank you so much to Talitha Consultants. Jeff, I'm turning it back to you.
I think we can leave.
Yep, good night.
Good night.
Good night, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.